The wind cut sharply through the empty streets of the small town as Emily sat huddled on a worn park bench. The letter in her hands trembled, though not just from the cold. Another rejection. Another door closed. Her savings were nearly gone, her apartment already on notice, and with no family to turn to, the weight of her loneliness pressed harder than the winter air. She pressed the letter to her lap and buried her face in her hands, fighting the tears that threatened to spill. It was then she heard the soft crunch of small footsteps. Looking up, she saw a little girl no older than 7, clutching a threadbare teddy bear to her chest. Her coat was thin, her cheeks red from the cold, yet her eyes sparkled with a strange kind of courage. The girl stopped in front of Emily, studying her face for a long moment. Then, in a voice so innocent yet so piercing, she said, "You look lonely. You need a home, and I need a mommy." Emily's heart jolted. She opened her mouth but found no words. The child's simple statement had sliced straight through her despair. Emily noticed the girl's shoes were scuffed, her gloves mismatched, and something in the way she hugged her teddy bear spoke of nights without comfort. "Where are your parents, sweetheart?" Emily asked softly. The girl's gaze fell, her voice barely above a whisper. "I stay at the center down the street. But sometimes I just want to find someone who wants me." Emily felt the sting of tears again, but this time for a different reason. In the silence that followed, the little girl's hand slipped gently into hers, warm and trusting, as if they both knew, without saying a word, that they had just found what they were missing. Emily sat frozen, her heart pounding as the little girl's words echoed in her mind. "You need a home, and I need a mommy." It felt less like a child's whim and more like a truth spoken into the cold night. Emily looked down at the small hand curled around hers, soft and fragile yet so certain, as though Lily had chosen her in that very moment. "I don't know if I can be that person," Emily whispered, her voice breaking. She thought of the rejection letter folded in her pocket, of the landlord's warnings, of her fridge at home holding nothing but a jar of peanut butter and half a loaf of bread. What kind of mother could she be when she couldn't even take care of herself? But Lily only squeezed her hand tighter. Her big eyes lifted, filled with a faith Emily hadn't seen in herself for years. "You don't have to be perfect. I just want someone who won't leave." The words pierced Emily like an arrow. They weren't about toys or treats, about wealth or promises, just about presence, love, and staying. Things Emily herself had longed for since losing her own family. The ache in her chest softened as warmth slowly replaced the cold despair. They began walking together, the girl chattering about her teddy bear's adventures, about how she loved chocolate chip cookies and hated rainy days. Emily listened, and for the first time in so long, she felt her lips curve into a smile. And when Lily slipped her little arm around Emily's, whispering, "See. We already fit," Emily felt it too, an invisible bond pulling them closer, fragile yet unbreakable. For the first time in years, hope flickered inside her like a tiny flame refusing to be put out. The foster center came into view, its brick walls dimly lit, a place meant to be safe but one that somehow radiated loneliness. As they approached, Emily felt Lily's small steps begin to slow. The chatter that had filled the walk faded into silence. The girl clutched her teddy bear tighter, her eyes fixed on the ground. At the door, a woman rushed out, worry etched across her face. "Lily! We've been looking everywhere for you," she exclaimed, kneeling down to scold her gently. Lily's head bowed, and she muttered, "I wasn't lost. I was with her." Her tiny finger pointed toward Emily, and in that instant, Emily felt a rush of protectiveness she didn't recognize in herself until now. The staff member turned to Emily with a sigh of relief. "Thank you for bringing her back. She does this sometimes, wanders off when she feels restless." Emily nodded, but her chest tightened as Lily stepped closer to her, refusing to let go of her hand. "I don't want to stay here tonight," Lily whispered, her voice breaking. "I feel invisible here." Emily's throat closed. She wanted to say she understood, because she did. She knew too well what it felt like to be unseen, to drift through life as though you didn't matter. She looked at the building, then back at Lily's pleading eyes. Something inside her cracked wide open. "You're not invisible," Emily said softly, bending down to meet her gaze. "Not to me." Lily's eyes glistened, and before Emily could react, the child wrapped her arms tightly around her neck, holding on as if afraid to let go. In that embrace, Emily realized she was no longer standing at the edge of her own life. She had already stepped into something new, something she hadn't dared to dream of, the beginning of family. That night, Emily lay awake in her small apartment, Lily's tearful hug still burning in her memory. The quiet hum of the radiator only seemed to echo her racing thoughts. She had nothing, no savings left, no job secured, and barely enough food for herself. How could she possibly think of taking responsibility for a child? The logical part of her begged her to forget, to walk away before heartbreak swallowed her whole. But then she remembered Lily's trembling voice, "I just want someone who won't leave." The words haunted her, cutting through every excuse she tried to build. Emily knew that emptiness too well, the endless longing for someone to stay. And wasn't that what they both needed, someone to hold on to, even in the storm? The next morning, Emily found herself back at the foster center. Her hands shook as she signed in, unsure if she was brave or simply foolish. The halls smelled faintly of disinfectant, filled with children's drawings taped to the walls, smiling faces sketched in crayon that tried to mask the sadness beneath. When Lily spotted her from across the room, she froze for a moment, then broke into the brightest smile Emily had ever seen. The little girl ran to her, teddy bear bouncing against her side, and leapt into her arms as though she had been waiting her whole life for this exact moment. Emily held her tightly, tears pricking her eyes. The decision wasn't fully made yet, the paperwork, the process, the uncertainty all loomed ahead, but in that embrace, she already knew the truth. Sometimes love didn't wait for perfect timing or perfect circumstances. Sometimes it was simply a choice, a leap of faith. And Emily realized she was ready to take it. Weeks later, the world looked different. Emily had managed to land a steady job at the local library, the kind of work that didn't make her rich but gave her stability, and hope. Every afternoon, when her shift ended, she found herself hurrying toward the foster center, where Lily would already be waiting by the window, her little face lighting up the moment she saw her. The adoption process was slow, filled with forms, interviews, and background checks, but Emily didn't waver. Each step felt like a promise she was making, not just to the system, but to Lily and to herself. She was building a life worth living, one where neither of them had to feel invisible again. On the morning she finally came to take Lily home, the sun seemed brighter, the air warmer, as if the whole world was celebrating with them. Lily clutched her teddy bear in one hand and Emily's hand in the other, her steps light and eager. "This isn't goodbye, right?" Lily asked, her voice trembling with the memory of so many partings before. Emily knelt down, her eyes shining with tears, and pressed a kiss to Lily's forehead. "No, sweetheart. This is forever." As they walked out of the center together, side by side, Emily felt the weight of her past losses melt away. For the first time in years, she wasn't defined by rejection or loneliness, she was defined by love, by the choice to stay. Lily leaned against her, whispering, "You gave me a mommy." Emily squeezed her hand, her heart swelling with gratitude. "And you gave me a reason to live again." The two walked toward their future, hand in hand, two broken souls who had finally found their home in each other.